you very much to Al and members of Free Press Media and the Burlington Free Press. I'm very grateful for the exposure they've given me over the last couple weeks. My 87-year-old father was sitting on the porch the other day and yelled into me and he goes, "You're on page 6A today." I was like, okay. So thank you all for coming. My goal here today is to walk you through a little bit of the basics of LinkedIn. First, I want to know, does everybody here have a LinkedIn page? Yes? How many people have a company page? So just a few of you. Okay. Bobby. Okay. We don't have a pointer thingy. So basically, LinkedIn, personal branding, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur, which there are a lot of in this state, you want to stand out from your peers and you want to find ways to do that that are creative. And so you want to do that through your online image management. And that can be on your Facebook, it can be on Twitter, it can be various things. But it's really most powerful on LinkedIn. And so this is one of my favorite quotes. And I'm going to get into why this quote is a favorite, because it's about telling your story and who you are. So your personal brand is something you need to know before you can really dig deeper into LinkedIn. Your personal brand is your reputation. How do you want your clients, customers, colleagues, peers to perceive you? And you need to think about your values for that so that you know what means something to you, and then you're going to reflect that in your LinkedIn profile. Before I go any further, I just want to mention there's a perception about LinkedIn, of course, that LinkedIn really did start as a job-seeking tool. People could put their resume online, recruiters would go look. Recruiters actually kind of started going away from it a bit, but then when LinkedIn changed its algorithms, which is like the background formula to get people noticed on LinkedIn, it started really becoming a marketing tool. They started wanting content. Everybody knows what content is. It's the way you present yourself in your messaging. They wanted content to be search engine optimized, and so it's where you can just tell your story, your unique story. And everybody here has a story. So know your story. One of the exercises I've suggested people do, pretend you're being asked to speak at something like this, or at a conference, or anything that you interact with in your industry. And write a personal bio for yourself. Kind of go through that exercise, 5, 6, 7 sentences, and write about, like, in other words, not just so-and-so with this title working at this company, I have 15 years experience and da-da-da-da, I went to school and I like to ski and travel and play with my kids. Not that that's not important, but it shouldn't be the main thing of what you write. Write something that ties in why you do what you do. It just can be a sentence or two. So think about your story, and then when you tie it into your LinkedIn profile, it's something that's going to be effective, but it's going to be short and concise. So did I go one too many? Okay. So on the second bullet point, determine your most interesting or quirky characteristic. So I'm going to spend just a few moments here on this. So what does quirky look like? So when we get into the headline section of the LinkedIn profile, the headline section is you have your name, and then below your name is what's called the headline. And that's where most people put their title, director of whatever. LinkedIn doesn't really care about that unless you're the CEO of Coca-Cola. Or Al is the president and publisher of Free Press Media. That's going to be different. But if you want people to find you, LinkedIn rewards people who use keyword terms in their headline. And we'll get more into detail for that. So what I do with my clients is I take that little quirky piece and I tie it into their headline. And so I just wanted to show you an example. So this one right here, there's a woman who's a Vermonter. She's head of a marketing law firm. She used to have a really big agency. And she's decided that she wants to pull back because her partner and her love horses, and when they go on vacation, they go out west and they do a ranching vacation, a working ranch. They have horses. She has like 5. And she loves to ride horses. And so on her headline, we put all of her search terms related to marketing and the law firm. And then we came up with the term aspiring rodeo queen. And so it's the kind of thing that if somebody goes and looks for her, you know, she's a master's level person. If they have a side-by-side of the various people who do what she does, they're going to go, oh my God, that's kind of fun, that's kind of cool. It sets apart from every other person I look at on LinkedIn. So when I work with people, I want to find out that quirky thing. It doesn't have to be cheesy, but it needs to be something interesting. I'm working right now with an independent insurance agent in Atlanta who is from a very dry insurance industry. But he is like an insurance nerd. I mean, like when I talk to him on the phone, he's like pumped about insurance. I'm thinking, wow. And it was funny because we got into he collects comic books. And so I thought, well, like superhero stuff? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, well, how about like Insurance Crusader? He's like, I love that. So, and that's going to set him apart from his peers. Another financial advisor I'm working with from LA really stayed, very stoic, like couldn't get him to really say much on the phone. He's like, you know, takes care of high net worth individuals. And I go, what do you like to do for fun? Travel and collect wine. Okay, well, the wine part's probably not going to be accepted by compliance because you're in a regulated, industry. I said, so we talked, and then he starts talking about how he and his wife go traveling, and they go to these food and wine pairing classes, and he just, you know, goes on and on about these classes. He takes high-end food stuff. And I said, well, like, you're like a global foodie. And like, all of a sudden, he just came out, yes, I'll eat food anywhere. And so he's actually gotten a lot of like results from that just because it's a conversation breaker at that point. So if somebody reaches out to you, and it doesn't always have to be funny. Mine says woman-owned business champion for my thing. So that's what quirky looks like. And I just wanted to run through quickly. A lot of you probably know this, but a lot of people are on many of these and more. Especially, and I'm coming to this now from a business side, okay? So any of you have a Facebook business page? Okay. Do you all use it a lot? Do you find it works for you? See, now you have to pay to play. If you're going to have your Facebook business page work for you, now you really have to do Facebook ad campaigns. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's changed, it's shifted. So what I tell people is if Facebook isn't really working the way you would like it to be, then you can, taking that energy that you put into that and take some of that energy and maybe start putting it into LinkedIn and advancing your LinkedIn skills and your LinkedIn engagement. So Facebook, as you know, casual, informal, build relationships. Twitter is more professional, speaks to industry trends. Twitter's great, especially depending on your industry, to put out things that are news about what you're doing, topics relative to the service you offer, even if it's not you offering them, commenting on a peer article. And LinkedIn is the place to be for professionals. One of the new features that LinkedIn just came out with about last fall into the early part of the year is what's called long-form publishing feature. It's a mouthful way of saying a blog on LinkedIn, but not just attached to your own profile. So is anybody here familiar with it? Have you all heard about long-form publishing, the feature? It's through what's called Pulse. Pulse used to be a news generator. LinkedIn bought Pulse, and now Pulse is a place where people in the LinkedIn network, and everybody, whether you're connected to them personally or not, can post compelling creative content. You can do it in there and post it, and it goes into a feed, but it lives there forever. And then it attaches itself to your profile, and so whenever somebody goes in to read your profile, they'll see, oh, she's posted on the long-form publishing piece. So I've used it maybe 3 times. I'd like to use it more. It's very, very effective in helping your ranking on LinkedIn and in Google. It really helps your ranking for your personal profile / business. So I went on in, let's see, November. I actually took one of my blogs. It was on my website, which doesn't get a lot of readership yet. And I put it on LinkedIn, and I got about 115 likes, and I was thrilled. I put one on in January, and I built it. It went up to about maybe 300. And my partner Bill and I work at home, and we each have our home office. And I got so excited, I'm like running down the hall going, I got 300 likes on LinkedIn's long-form publishing. And he's like, whatever. and then, which is followed by, did you get a client? So it's you know, we internet nerds, I guess. But then I wrote one last month, and I got over 1,500 likes, but I got people who I respect in the industry writing comments. And so the reason I'm telling you that is it's a process. LinkedIn is a great place to start building yourself as a thought leader, as an influencer, as an industry expert. And it's a slow dance. Just because you go on and start doing this right now doesn't mean it's all going to happen tomorrow. That's not a realistic one. It takes time, and it takes a commitment, and we'll get more into that. I just wanted to show you quickly, I talked about B2B, so business to business. 349 million users are now on LinkedIn. Last October, it was at 289 million. And 41% of B2B marketers are using LinkedIn. As you can see, that's the top one. And B2C still use more Facebook, but it's building on LinkedIn. And even though 9% doesn't sound like much, it's building. And I'm going to get into whether or not it makes sense for you to have a company page toward the end of this talk. But I just thought that that's an interesting graph for people who are in real estate. You know, having a Pinterest, even maybe a YouTube makes sense. And you know, you can connect your YouTube channel to your LinkedIn profile. So there's lots of ways to use all of that together. LinkedIn is the third fastest growing social network. It's actually almost, in some statistics that you read, it's almost up there with Twitter. And like I said before, it's not just a job seeking tool anymore. It's a marketing tool. It's a lead generating tool. It's an online connecting tool, people that you wouldn't normally get to meet at the Chamber of Commerce mixer or something like that. But and I'll just make a quick caveat to that. The offline relationship, though, is still the most important. LinkedIn is a tool. And as I mentioned, become a thought leader. It's a great resource for people to read your blog, especially if you take your blog from your blog and put it on that post feature on LinkedIn. People will then end up linking back to your website. And that's always one of your main things with inbound marketing, like Al mentioned, is you want, whatever you're doing in your social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, you want to put links in there that are going to drive people back to your website. You own your website. You don't own your Facebook page. You don't own your Twitter page. You don't own your LinkedIn profile page. You own your website. So you want to get people to come back to your website because then they're going to find other stuff about you. LinkedIn, however, from a social media standpoint, is the only social media platform where you can control your message to the level that you can. You can't do that in 140 characters on Twitter. So great resource for people to read your blog, brings them to your site. And then we're going to get into optimizing your profile with keyword search terms. Does everyone here understand what a keyword search term is, or the term search engine optimization? Does everyone have a good feeling for that? Okay. And the biggest piece too, I read LinkedIn blogs and I have people I follow all the time, is that showcasing your experience and volunteer work, especially if you're a job seeker, are the two most important things that recruiters put weight on. So if you have any kind of volunteer work, and even if it's not recent, even if it's been 3 years ago, even if you're just on a board, or a volunteer for Habitat for Humanity or something like that, include it. It's huge, and especially in Vermont, where we're so community-minded, and if you're looking within Vermont, I mean, you have a great opportunity to be able to show that off. There you go. Why keep a low profile? That's a LinkedIn shot. I think a lot of people feel like all I've got to do is cut and paste my resume and stick it into LinkedIn and I'm good to go. Do not cut and paste your resume into your LinkedIn profile. You know how most resumes have that objective thing at the top? You know, you can take that if you want and use that as your kickoff point to write your summary, but try to make it interesting, you know, make it compelling. Just don't cut and paste everything. Don't use responsible for, passionate about, implemented, oversaw. I mean, that's resume speak, and you don't want to do that on your LinkedIn, especially if you're going for a job. Why have one be the hard copy and have it be the same on LinkedIn? They want to find something else about you on LinkedIn. They want to know about you as a human and the other things you do. So these are the top tips for the profile that are so important. And from this point forward, as I go through, please feel free to raise your hand and ask me any questions as I'm talking, because I don't expect you to go back to remember every slide I've given. And if you have any questions right now, feel free to throw them out. I'm happy to do this as like a dialogue, so don't hold back. So the top 12 tips for your profile, some of these are going to look really obvious, but I can't tell you how often nobody has a decent looking photo. Some people don't have a photo because they feel funny about it. The majority of people I know, especially who really use this as a business tool, will not accept an invitation from anybody, regardless of their title, what they do, if there's no photo. And then get a decent photo. If you can afford to get a professional headshot, there's a few people in Burlington that have a package for like $175, bring you into their studio for an hour, take a shot, give you your photos, and you've got a great shot. Or get someone you know who has good photography skills and takes a nice looking shot of you too. And here's a little professional bonus tip for all of you. So instead of standing like this for your shot, and they're standing here to take a picture, okay, this is great. Stand sideways and you look this way, and it's very thinning through here. And you don't look like you're, you know, in the mugshot stance. So a professional looking photo really makes all the difference. Do not use your Facebook photos if you've got your arm around somebody from a party and they're cut off here, or they're, you know, there was one woman who was like in a bikini like this on her LinkedIn page. I'm thinking, not really. And so, you know, be smart about it and make sure it's quality, not grainy. So that's really important. Do you all know what a custom URL is on a LinkedIn profile? Or do you all know what URL is? It's a website address. Okay. When I get to my pictures, I'll show you. A custom URL is basically, it's the URL that takes people to your LinkedIn page. And if you were to look at yours right now, if you haven't created a custom one, it's going to be like linkedin.com/blah, blah, blah, %, symbol, asterisk, lots of numbers, and it's this long. A custom URL can actually be based on your name. And then once you make the custom URL, you can actually use it in your email signature. You can put it on business cards. And it's just, it's a great way. You can tell people, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm under Kate Paine, or whatever your name is, if it's your initial, you know, L. Smith or whatever. Background photos used to only be for people who had premium level accounts. Now they're open to people with free accounts. A background photo is nice if it has to do with your branding for your business, include it. Just remember that it's really, the image is, it's on the perimeter of, like, there's your headshot and this, and then there's like space around the back that shows an image, but you can only see what's on those sides. You can't really see something in the middle. And we'll go over that too. Don't be a lamb. Look at my buddies. In other words, you're accepting every invitation from everybody, and you just want to build those numbers up for the number of connections you have. And you don't know who they are, you don't care who they are. They could be spammers and scammers, so don't be a lamb. And you also might see lion on some people's on headlines, which means they're a LinkedIn open networker. That's not something you want to be either. It used to be a thing, it's no longer a thing. Be judicious in your invitations, and we can talk more about that. That's usually where a lot of questions come up. LinkedIn says if you have 500 more connections, that ranks you right up in LinkedIn and Google for what you do in your profession. But do it judiciously. Don't accept all invitations. Accept people not from just who you know, otherwise why bother. Do it from people that you don't know and who you want to link with. Some of them could be potential clients, customers. Some of them could be industry peers. Some of them could be people who read your blog. And you really, really want to be able to establish that relationship. The other big thing I always tell everybody is, you know how you get that invitation that says, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn? Okay, that's the default message. Please, please, please. Send a personal invitation. It takes 2 seconds. Take that invitation and send a thing saying, oh, you know what, I saw you at the Champlain Chamber Mixer last night. Really enjoyed talking to you about X. I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn. Or something like this. I would love, you know, you guys totally invite me to connect with you on LinkedIn if you'd like. And you say to somebody if you go to a conference, heard your conference on X, really enjoyed it, let's connect. All those people that you want to build, they're thought leaders. You want to connect with those people because their networks are huge. And so their network helps your network. And sending a personal invitation is key. And I would say most business leaders and industry leaders and thought leaders will not accept an invitation if it's not been written personally. And it just needs to be a sentence. Adding media is great. You can put in videos, your YouTube channel, white papers, ebooks, anything like that, presentations, slide presentations, all of that can be connected in the top portion of your summary. Compelling summary, again, I talked about that, is writing it in a creative way, and I've got a few examples. Avoiding industry jargon, I'm sure you all probably understand that. If you're an engineer or you're a lawyer or something, stay away from all that industry speak. and make it accessible for people. And the optimization piece I'll get to here in just a second. Okay, so this is my headline. So this was what I was talking about. So this right here is the headline. This is where most people would put their title. And so what I've done here is, so right here, personal brand strategist and speaker is a keyword search term. And then I separate it with a pike. You can use a pike, a bullet point, something like that. And then Vermont Public Relations is another search term. And then this is where I usually do the sort of quirky, interesting thing right here, which is not a search term. It's just the thing that makes you human. LinkedIn and Google recognize this as a search term when there's this separator in between. So that's what LinkedIn and Google search for first. So if somebody goes in and types in Vermont Public Relations, then that's going to help my profile rise up because I've used that keyword strategically in my headline. Does that all make sense to you? Okay. So, and then this is where your URL address would be. So if you went onto your LinkedIn page right now, this would be there. It wouldn't have your name spelled out. It would be like this long. And so you can go into, when you go into your page and you're in edit mode, there'll be a little gear icon. You know what the little gear icon looks like? You can click on that, and there'll be a pull-down menu, and it'll say Create Custom URL. A new window will open, and in the upper right-hand side of your LinkedIn page, they'll say Create a Custom URL, and you can type in, Sally Smith. Of course, Sally Smith is totally taken. And if it is taken, it'll recommend things that might work for you. Or if she was Sally Smith and her middle name began with a Z, then she could be, S.Z. Smith. Anyway, you get the picture. You can play around with it. A lot of people think they should do their Twitter handle. I suggest you don't. It can get confusing. Your Twitter handle is your Twitter handle, and I don't think you should tie it in to your LinkedIn page, because your LinkedIn page is about you. It's about you and your brand and what you do. So keep it personal. Oh, and one other little thing, see this? It never says, like if you have 1,500 or 3,000 or 40,000 followers, it never says more than 500 plus. So, and nobody can see that unless they're linked with you. This is about the compelling summary. Before I get into this, does anybody have any questions about the custom URL or anything else to this point? Yes?
Question. You said if you just send out, basically you click to invite somebody and post whatever it's going to say.
Yes.
You've already invited somebody. It doesn't let you invite them again. So
how do you go back? Well, of course, LinkedIn makes that difficult. So the trick is you all know when it says people you may know, and you may know them. And then underneath it says connect. So there's like their headshot, and then it says connect. If you click the connect button, it's going to automatically send that default message. If you click their headshot, it opens up to their page. And then at the top says send invitation. Then you send it, and then a dialog box will open to say, how do I know this person? Use your business, your current business thing. Don't use the I've never met this person, this, that. Don't even go there, because then they're going to ask you for their email and this and that. Just say, we've done business together. There's a button. And then under that, choose the title, because in your experience section will be all the titles you've held or the positions you've held in your experience section. Click the one that's currently with you, and then you can write the message. And it's just a one sentence. I heard you speak at X conference. Really enjoyed your talk on love to connect on LinkedIn. Huh? Even if you haven't done business together, because that's the way you can get the message out there. If you have the premium version of LinkedIn, you can send in mail, and you get like 10 a month, I think. You could also do it that way, but the other way is it's just a simpler way to do it. But anytime something says connect, like even on a mobile app, if you get an invitation, you check it on your mobile app, and you click accept on your mobile app, it doesn't always work. So when I accept people, I actually do it on my laptop. I wait. Just another little extra tip there. Yeah. Yes.
What kinds of things do you write on your blog?
On my blog or in general?
I'm just curious about what you might say just to pertain to your business.
Well, I recently did a whole research thing on how to spot a fake LinkedIn profile. And I found that all on my own, kind of a hard way. And so I wrote a blog on how to spot a fake LinkedIn profile. I've also written a blog during Small Business Week, which was a month ago or so, and I wrote it about women-owned businesses in Vermont as compared to the national trend in the economy. And so I wrote something about that because that's a personal interest of mine. I've also written about, sometimes I just write about something kind of different. I mean, it doesn't all have to be about what you do all the time. You can write about something that's just interesting and it shows that human side of you. Would you do it for every single blog? So if you blog once a week and people follow you, I mean, you want to be blogging about what you know because that's why they want to know you. But mix it up too, you know? So does that answer your question? Yes. Okay. So compelling summary. This is the section that comes after your profile shot. Some people don't even have this. They don't think they need it. They skip right to experience. If you want to make LinkedIn work for you and your business, you need to have a summary. LinkedIn allows up to 2,000 characters, including spaces. If you use them all, it's going to be real long. And as you know, people don't want to read a lot of dense text these days. They want to skim. So you can't do any formatting in the LinkedIn summary backend when you're writing this. However, you can do a capital headline. It's recognized. It's actually a thing that helps rank you with search engines. And so it's also, when you think about it, when you scan, your eye's going to go right to here. This is a summary I did for a person who's a life coach. And so we did this little, formula thing up here. So what you want to do is talk about who you are and a little bit, what you do, why you're the expert. Then you want to talk about what the person's pain is. What is it why are they coming to you? They've obviously got a problem with something. So they're interested in your service or product to help them get rid of that pain. So for here, we did a bulleted piece. Do you want to realize your personal and professional ambitions, improve the effective use of your time? People are going to read that, relate to it. And then it says, as a certified coach, this is how I work. I work especially with these types of people. And then this is what your results will be. So it's sort of like, it's not all about, here I am, who I am, I've done 30 years of this, that, and another. That's going to get incorporated in your experience section. That's where that part's going to sort of stand on its own. But this is your opportunity to have some creativity. And then the other piece is, too, is you can take some of those search engine terms in your headline that we talked about here and repeat them just once, twice maybe, in here. Again, it's an SEO thing. How are we doing on time? Tammy? Somebody? Okay, great. One of the things I was going to mention is when I talk about SEO, it makes it sound like I'm putting a lot of weight on it. For any of you who follow Google stuff and SEO world on blogs and things, Google's changing their algorithm to focus more on content and compelling content and interesting content versus search engine optimization and ranking. So it's still really important to pay attention to the SEO of your LinkedIn page or your website page, but write for people. I always say write 80% for people and then the 20% of the robots, which are the search engine terms. Especially in Vermont, if your market's in Vermont, or just as a person of who you are and what your personal style is, write for people. It's much more interesting. And if you don't want to write it or you don't think you're a good writer, there's plenty of people in the area who you can hire to help write, even if you just wanted them to help you with write this part and get your story, or maybe write the about page for you on your website, because it's really hard to write about ourselves. I mean, the hardest one I ever wrote was for me. So, and I'm sure you can all relate to that. So showcasing your expertise is the main reason LinkedIn exists. You can, as I mentioned, you can post the presentations, but you can engage with industry peers. Do any of you here follow LinkedIn groups? Are there any industry groups you follow? Yes? Okay. Do you engage on them or do you just follow them? I can't hear you. Follow? Okay. Does anybody here engage in a group like pretty regularly? Okay. What do you get out of it, Flip? Do you like it?
Yeah, the Certified B Corps.
Certified B Corps? Yeah. Okay. So that's the thing. You could have maybe 10 groups you follow because you're interested and they will put posts up, so then you'll be a listener and you'll want to learn what they're saying. But if you pick one group that you really like, engage with it. Go in and post, comment on people's things, make posts. You don't have to do it a lot, but you'll be amazed at how many people start really seeing that you know what you know, and then they're going to have some connection that maybe you want to meet. So this is a way for you to meet industry peers that you never thought you might be able to meet. I've got 2 people I've been following for years on LinkedIn who are like my geeky little celebrities. And I attended a webinar and I sent them a personal invitation, and she actually came back to me with a truly, sincerely personal message and connected with me on LinkedIn. And I'm like, wow, I mean, it's the geek thing in me, but it's like, it just shows you that it's working, and to have fun with this, and that who knows where it's gonna take you. Always connect your website and blog. You're allowed 3 URLs to connect to things. So even if you don't have a blog, like you don't blog for a company, but maybe you have a personal blog because you're a creative writer, connect it if you want to. And then if you have a LinkedIn YouTube channel, it's another opportunity to get that out there if you have one or your company has one. And we'll get into requesting recommendations in a bit. So here's the piece about the LinkedIn groups. There's also, people get confused between following companies and joining groups. Following companies are just companies that maybe you do business with. If you're a job seeker, follow the company that you're going to interview for because they're going to go look. 98% of recruiters and headhunters go to LinkedIn first before anything else. So if you're going to want to interview for 7th Generation, you better be following 7th Generation's LinkedIn page. That should be there, okay? So make sure you keep that in mind. Same thing if you want to get a client or a customer with another company, maybe you should be following. If they have a LinkedIn group, follow them, but research it. It takes a minute. It just shows that you're proactive and paying attention. So now we're going to talk about company pages. LinkedIn would totally, by the way, I don't work for LinkedIn. I have nothing to do with LinkedIn. They don't pay me for any of this. This is just all my thing. LinkedIn would tell everybody they need a company page. Everybody does not need a company page. Could I see a show of hands? Who is thinking about a company page who is also a solo entrepreneur or a business with less than 3 employees? Okay. Do you have a company page?
I have a company page for one client. I'm thinking about a personal company page.
Okay. What about you, Flip?
Not yet.
No? No? Okay. Have you been thinking about it? Wondering it's worth it? Okay, so my quick thing about that is if you are your own personal brand and you are the person that is always meeting with your clients and interacting and engaging, then probably having your page alone is sufficient. If you start to build and you start to like travel and you start to really expand your business and maybe you start to have a team of employees, then considering a company page would be worth it for you. And then you link them together, obviously. You can't have a company page without having your own personal page. So that's how you can get that together. I did a little pro and con here. The pros, which are huge if it's a bigger company, is to get your employees to use their personal pages to link to your company page. So if somebody researches your company, goes to the company page, on the right-hand side, it'll show all the people who are employees in that company. Not to mention the fact that when you have your employees link with you, their network might be 1,300 people. Someone else's could be 5,000. You have taken that crowd that you have as followers. So if you start a company page, it might say 45 followers. But you're exponentially increasing the expanse of that page. And while you're not going to probably get conversions on that page, it's another place where people do their research now before they buy. So they're going to want to check you out and they're going to want to check your company out. It's a way to have a solid presence to make sure people are getting something that maybe they don't get on your website. It's SEO friendly. You can post employment opportunities. So if you have constant jobs or turnover at certain times of the year, you can actually add a tab for the time you need it. You can pull it down when you're done. So, and that's where a lot of people seeking work go to first. They go to the online, newspaper ads, want ads, and then they also go because they know a company they might want to work for. So 7th Generation actually uses this feature really well, as does Green Mountain Coffee and some of the larger companies. It's a broadcasting tool. In other words, it's a way to put your stuff out there. But on the downside of it, it's a listening only tool. You don't really get engagement on a company page. Your best engagement is still going to happen with you as an individual. And you cannot join groups. Your company page cannot join groups. So, and frankly, if you want to engage on a company page, it's kind of hard to be yourself when you're trying to speak for your brand. Do you know what I mean? Like you're a reason why a lot of people are going to come and do business with you, because they like you, they trust you, they know you, they like your skills. And so the employee engagement is huge. One of the things you can do that people go, well, what am I going to post? I'm like, well, you can post some of the stuff you post on your own page. I said, but do fun things. Do like behind the scenes stuff. Interview your employees. You can easily do like a Q&A. Ask 3 questions. You know, ask them about themselves, why they like working, what is it that they do, and you can post these things. I got to tell you, they work, and the employees could post that on their pages. You can cross-link it to your other media. Actually doing Q&As from a blog standpoint, and it's separate from what I'm talking about here. If you're not a good writer, you don't feel comfortable, do little interviews with people. If you're a real estate agent, go interview a decorator, go interview a contractor, an electrician. I mean, expand it, because all of those services are people you're going to know about and you're going to be asked about. So think about how you can do it in a fun way that brings people to you. And one of the most popular things right now, you're all familiar with like internet memes, like funny little quotes and things like that. And then you see all the inspirational ones. Inspirational memes or quotes are like the most popular thing on business pages and company pages. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, really? So that's great, but I wouldn't do it all the time. you know what that's going to do to your whatever, your brand. And then posting photos with all of your content, same with a blog, receives a 98% more engagement rate. Everything in our world, especially online, is very visual based. So my 3 C's: compelling, consistent, and committed. So some of you might be going, I don't have time to do all this. Or I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, I'm on Tumblr, I'm on all these things, and I barely find enough time to do the one thing that I want to do. So this is a time to assess what makes sense for me in my business, what makes sense for me as a solo entrepreneur, where do I want to be spending my time? So figure that out for yourself. If you just want to have, at the very least, a solid LinkedIn personal page, then make it solid, make it good, keep it fresh. And if you don't want to engage, you don't have to. But at least make that place your home of who you are. You never know. Somebody may want to do an informational interview, meet you for coffee for whatever reason, because someone said a friend should meet for coffee because you two should know each other. Don't most of you go online and research that person if you've never met them and go, wonder what I'm supposed to expect? So, you know, it's a way, you want to have a place that anybody can find out something about you, where you're controlling the message and it's what you want people to know. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you can really engage, you can get much deeper, you can get into scheduling posts and all of that, and, but figure out what you want to commit to, because whatever you want to commit to is what you will do. If you set your bar too high, as you know, you're going to not do it, you're going to feel like you're failing, you're going to feel like this, and I didn't do it right. So, so figure out what works and make it work for your schedule. And can you all see this right here? This is one of my favorite quotes. Tools like LinkedIn and Twitter are of rapidly increasing importance, but that is all they are, tools. If you don't have the mindset to build relationships, then you're not ready for the tools. This is just funny. It says, I try to update my LinkedIn profile every 5 years or so. You know, keep it current. So these are, I actually mentioned, that's one of my blog posts about how to spot a faked LinkedIn profile, and there are a lot of them. And 6 tips for using LinkedIn for business development. Ian Jackson is a blogger I follow. This is a really great sort of nugget article for you to help you, take you a little further into thinking about what you want to do for your business development side. And then that's the end for me, but I'm open to questions. Yes? Thank you.